Hello there, my name's Steve, and you have tuned back into the Go Football podcast. So, this is the podcast where we talk all about grassroots football. Whether you are a parent, player, referee, just got love for the game, sit tight, you are in the right place. So, this week on the lineup, we will be talking about something that almost every single coach has experienced. We will be looking at mixed ability teams. We'll be looking at the pros, the cons, how to manage them, what to do, and why are there so many mixed ability teams. So let's cue the whistle. Let's get into it. So mixed ability teams. Look, I'm going to go through a lot of things today as well, but I'm sure that everyone who's coached, who has got a child in grassroots football at some point has had them either in or been experienced or exposed to mixed ability teams. Now, you're going to get them for a lot of different reasons, really, aren't you? One, you're going to get players that have been playing for years. You're going to get some players who are brand new to the game too. So we'll get some mixed abilities there. We're going to get some that are physically advanced, and we'll get some that are still developing. So, we're going to get lots of different types of teams, and also not just different types of teams. I suppose we're going to get lots of different abilities within that team. But we're always going to have one player who's faster than everyone else. We're always going to have one player that's stronger than everyone else. However, this is a team game. So what can we do with this as well? And also, why are there so many mixed ability teams? Because this seems to be a topic that comes up all of the time, whether it comes up on forums, whether it comes up like just at the side of the pitch, whether or not you're looking as a coach to try and get games booked in. And as we get towards the end of the season now, we're probably going to try and get some friendlies booked in. And we're always seeing that high-level team, low-level team, mixed ability team sometimes pops up there too. So why do we have so many of them? Well, look, I think there's a number of different reasons. And you know what? You can probably hear the bell already. Yes, stats alert. We've got some of those coming up for you too. So I think that there's some real big challenges that coaches also get from these. And, there are some practical ways that you can manage mixed ability teams in training, keeping both your strongest players and also your newest players engaged all the way through, because almost every team, really, for me, that the ones that I see, even the top level ones that are playing like level 1 or the ones that are playing level 7, which is sort of like right in there as a development as well, we see this. There's always going to be better players and players that are not quite as strong as those ones too. So, why is it so normal for us to have so many mixed ability teams? Because it seems like we've got so many. Well, the facts are, and this is what I've done. So here we go with the stats as well. So research shows that around 65% of children aged between about 6 and 12 participate in organised sports. So that is the peak sort of like time where children are engaged with activities and sports that are all being put on, which means that we're going to get a huge amount of abilities between those, which is probably why we notice more when they start getting older and children in grassroots start getting a little bit older. That's probably why we notice a little bit more of them getting into the right leagues, getting into the right place of where they need to be on their development path, but also, their skill level and how good they are and what kind of ability they are in, really. And I think that a lot of children, like I said, they come in and experience football in very different ways. If you've got players that have been playing since the age of 5, but they've been playing once, are they going to be more developed or less developed than maybe a player who started at maybe 7, 8, maybe 9, but played multiple times a week? Have we got some players that are kicking ball in the garden every single day, really? I know some kids that come home and they put the boots on, they're out in the garden and they're just kicking the ball around the garden if they can't go out too, And I think that you'll get some that maybe have played some other sports before too, exposure to donor sports or other types of sports, absolutely normal and fine to see. If you've got people that are training like once a week, they're probably not going to develop quite as quick. Maybe that's why they are in a different stage within that mixed ability team all the way through. But, I think that the research shows that children normally start around the ages 5 to 6, probably heavily parent orientated, that, isn't it, really, when you look at those kind of stats? Because it's not many 5 or 6 year olds saying, I'm going to go and do this, I'm going to go and do that. They're pretty much going on what their parents have kind of asked them to go and do. But they've also got a different kind of sporting background. You might find that some younger children with older siblings that are already playing the sport, maybe a bit more exposed to it, and maybe in their ability, maybe a little bit higher than someone who is maybe a first child who hasn't had that experience of playing with brothers and sisters at home and all the rest of it too, really. But, I think that what it is it gives us a good understanding as to why we have so many mixed ability teams. The times when they start, the amount that they do, and also that we're also condensing all these children from like 5 years old to like 11, 12 years old, of a massive chunk of children that are all on different paths. And that's why we get so many mixed ability teams. So the biggest challenges for coaches. So listen, obviously we always have challenges as coaches. Every single session for some coaches is an absolute challenge as well. Mixed abilities just adds a different dimension to that though, really. Look, we all got a little player who thinks he's Ryan Giggs or Gareth Bale that runs down the wing, taking everyone on all the way through. But then we've also got some children that, were probably a few weeks ago, probably picking daisies out the ground too, that have decided that, they're going to give football a try, and that's absolutely fine. That's where we get a little bit of difficulty sometimes as coaches. I mean, look, if we do have some sort of sessions as well, we have to make it, we have to try and balance it out as much as what we can do, because if your session's too easy, then your strongest players are going to get bored. But on the other side of that too, if your sessions are too difficult, your newer players that are maybe less experienced, maybe not as quite as skillful, they're going to feel lost in that as well. I think what you will get out of that though, whether or not it's too easy, too hard, I think that you will still get the same outcome, which is, players that are going to be disengaged, they're not going to be enjoying it quite as much. They may feel like that they fall out of love with football, which is definitely not what we're looking to do. So there's a few different things that I think we can do. And also, you've got to think the other side of it. Look, at the mixed abilities, we might have the same children starting at the same time, doing the same amount of hours of playing time as well, but there's going to be some physical differences. Like I say, and we talked about this before as well on a few previous podcasts, like our players moving backwards, that podcast, something like that, where we look at players, they all develop at different ages. So we are going to have mixed ability teams, but, the mixed ability teams that we might have a player that is maybe the weaker in one age group, and then all of a sudden strongest in the next age group, and then somewhere in the middle after that, and kind of find the level as they go through all those changes too. Yeah, I think that it does mean that the same age group we might have, like, say, one player that's quicker and stronger. We might have another one that is still developing their coordination. Again, all very big differences. So how can we kind of manage some of those different things? Well, look, differences show up very, very differently. It's often development. It's often not always about the talent of some of the players. Some of the players, yeah, they're going to be really, really talented. And, it's always really, really good to have those in the teams. So why can mixed abilities actually be positive for coaches in some ways as well? I mean, look, there's a couple of interesting things that we can maybe take from mixed ability teams and how we can really manage them. Like we said, look, they're very normal. So we're going to get this across the board from, your under sort of fives, under six, under sevens, all the way through, even into the teen years as well. There's going to be a lot of mixed ability teams there. But, I think that when some players play around people with different levels to them as well, the stronger players, they often help with a bit more leadership. They can help with communication. They can help with decision making, which is really good for your players that need that extra help and support, that those stronger players are getting that. But they're also getting extra time on the ball, aren't they? They're still learning the skills that they need to be able to learn too. But, meanwhile, what we also probably see on the other side of that, the players that are developing that are maybe more towards the bottom of that mixed development team as well, is that they'll be observing better players. They'll be seeing other players that are better than them doing things, and they'll be wanting to do that. How many times have we seen a professional footballer that has done a skill, and then all of a sudden at your next training session, everyone's trying to do it? So copying skills and copying movement, if they see someone that's doing something really good and they start doing it too, then, your mixed ability team, all of a sudden, there's a benefit to doing that as well. And sometimes people learn through competition. I know we always say that grassroots football is not always competitive at every level, but people learn through competition. They learn through that player's doing that, that person's doing this, that person's doing something else. So it's really good for players that are maybe towards the bottom to be able to do that, And there's also research into youth development that does show that participating in teams, of sports, about improved decision making, cognitive skills, focusing on things like their organisation and children who play regular actually develop a lot better. And that's great if you're a coach wanting to develop players too, because the biggest flex as a coach, right, isn't about winning. It's nice. It's always nice to win as a coach because you feel like you put loads of effort in, don't you? Like we all like that, write down like all our plans, all of our drills, all of our practices, everything that we're going to do every single week. We have it 6 weeks in advance sometimes. We do all of those things. It's nice to go and win. But the biggest flex really is that those players that weren't very good are now very, very good. And you may be taking a team from the bottom to the top. You know, if you're looking at professional managers as well, the managers that are doing really well, I mean, someone like Wrexham at the minute who were non-league and have been promoted every single season, that's a bit of a flex, really, as opposed to maybe a team that hasn't had any points deducted, is still sat nicely near the top of the Premier League and has spent millions and millions of pounds. So, you know, learning, it's a bit different for everyone, but I think that from those mixed ability teams and for coaches, you can get a lot of benefits out of them. So what is the risk then of only focusing on your best players if you've got a mixed ability team? Well, look, there's a lot of dangers with that, really. I mean, one, yes, very, very motivating for some players as well. But if you're only focusing on your strongest players and they're the only ones that are really getting the attention that they want, then yeah, they will get, you know, touches of the ball, be more of them as well. They'll get more praise for it. And maybe they'll get some more tactical instructions and things like that. Yeah, but maybe that's okay to do. But grassroots football, really, for me and for a lot of people, is about development for everyone, you know. And we have to always remember that sometimes people are participating in sports, that there's always a massive drop off. Sharply, especially in the teen years and especially in the girls' game. And you can generally see this if you ever go and have a look at how many leagues there are. You can sort of see that it's 7 leagues with 10 teams in, and then all of a sudden it's dropping down to like maybe 4 leagues with 8 in there. And then as they go on a little bit older than that, especially like I say, especially in the girls' game, because I think that the oldest age group that they've got, which I think is under 16s in my area, I think there's only 2 leagues now. But if you go back down a few age groups as well, I think there's about 8. So yeah, we dropped from 8 leagues of maybe 10 to 2 leagues of 8 or whatever it is that there is. So yeah, there's always going to be a massive kind of drop off on there as well. But and that might be because players are feeling a bit left out and feel like they want to stop playing, really. So, you know, coaches have got a really, really important role of not just developing the best players, but also keeping everyone engaged all the way through. And that's one of the risks, really, of just focusing on the best players. I mean, it's great having the best players, but if you don't have a team to go and play with, and all of the teams are folding and there's no effort to go and play, then those best players have kind of got nowhere to go and ultimately they'll stop playing too. So the real job of a grassroots coach, what is it when managing mixed ability teams? Look, I'm not here to say that it's easy managing mixed ability teams. You know, like I said earlier, we've got a player that's like Ryan Giggs or thinks he's Ronaldo, knocking it in top corners all the time. But then, you know, we've also got some players that got 2 left feet, you know, maybe making it a little bit harder. Some pass feet, kids will be able to pass it 40 yards and put it straight on someone's foot. Others, you know, take a shot from the penalty spot and hit the corner flag. All of it is all about development, and, you know, managing mixed abilities is very, very different. But what are we all here for? What are we all doing in grassroots football? Are we here to win every week and win a cup that no one's going to remember in 10 years' time? Or, you know, who are we winning that for either? Are we winning it for the kids, or are we winning it for the parents and the adults as well? Like, no one cares about those kind of things, really. It's all about development of players. Some will develop faster, some will develop slower. You know, we've talked about that a number of different times. So it might be best, you know, you might be the best player on the pitch as well, but where do you want to be the best player on the pitch? Do you want to be the best player on the pitch at 8 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old, 15 years old, or older? You know, people are all going to develop at different times. You know, in fact, I had a message that came in today for one-to-one coaching as well, who he was the best player last season, managers player of the year, and this year, absolutely, from what the message said, completely dropped off, completely different player, you know, looking for one-to-ones to build confidence up again. That's a 9-year-old that's parents that's messaged into that one for me. So, you know, there's often going to be a number of reasons why people want to go and do that. Look, some people will develop a little bit late. If you're a grassroots coach, enjoy the mixed ability side of things, okay? You can make things easier. you can make things harder. You can change the rules. You can change the description of what it is that you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to achieve goals and we're trying to just score goals, maybe get your weak players to go a little bit closer. Maybe give different angles out to your players who are a little bit further away. You can do the same practice, keep them both engaged all the way through. So the next time that you look at your think and you think this squad is all over the place, just remember a couple of different things. One, it's normal to have mixed abilities in your team. Not everyone is at the same level all the time, especially as these children are growing and changing and developing and doing all of that kind of stuff. Remember also, it's grassroots football. It's not the Premier League, okay? We don't need to be shouting at kids or thinking that they've done something wrong or putting them off of football, really, and getting them to not love the game. Just think that that player that you're maybe saying isn't too great, I don't like him in my team as well, because we don't want to be a mixed ability team, could be the next Jude Bellingham. I think he started quite late, actually. I'm not sure. I'll have to go and double check that. I'm sure he started something like 13 or 14. I think he went back into football around that kind of age. So listen, could be that kid that you're saying that to. And also, with some kids, they look forward to football, like it's the thing they enjoy doing the most. And we shouldn't really be putting them off as coaches as well. So you listen, managing mixed ability teams, yes, it can be difficult. Is it something that is normal? Absolutely, it's normal too. So look, if you've got any thoughts on the topic of managing mixed abilities, or you manage a mixed ability team and you've got some ideas that you want to maybe put into some of the comments on Spotify or YouTube or something like that, please do. But you can also just get us on gofootballpod@gmail.com. Follow us on all the socials as normal, which will be the TikTok, it'll be Facebook, Instagram. Obviously, you can get us on YouTube, you get us on Spotify, Amazon Music, all of those. So, look, until next time, I hope you're going to get some great games at the weekend. We're getting to the business end of the season now. So, for all those teams that are challenging for titles, going for cup finals now, good luck with them all. And I will speak to you, and you'll hear from me all next week.